All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us again on this April 4th morning on this Tuesday. Just to make sure everybody's in the right place. This is the Fostering Teamwork Workshop with our fabulous facilitator, Ms. Renee Abdullah. In true Metro United Way fashion, if you all could please in the chat, put your name and the organization that you are representing in the chat, please, for attendance purposes. Your name and the organization that you are representing in the chat for attendance purposes, and also for we can know who is in the room with us on today. So good morning to everybody. So we want to acknowledge that we have one more of these workshops left, and that is in May. So this is the second to the last. So we have the privilege of having Ms. Renee one more time with us again. And trying to think of any other announcements at this time. Oh, so you all will be the first ones to know. So at the end of the year, we always convene our partners. So we do one in August and we also do one in May. So for this year, our convening will be May 25th. And so, of course, we will send out notifications, but you all are here now. And so I'm already, we have you all in our presence. So I'll go ahead and tell you all that so you all can be looking forward to information on that. And I believe that is it. Oh, also, if you haven't heard the news or been following, so JCPS is having the new start time. So different start times. So we normally had two, one for elementary and then the other one's for middle and high school. Now there's going to be different start times for different schools. And so we want to know what the impact that's going to have on you all's programs. So that's going to be one of the topics that we talk about at our convening. So we will send out some more correspondence in regards to the questions that you have and just giving you all an opportunity to talk with JCPS because we will have representatives there at our end of year. Okay, but without further ado, like I said, this is Fostering Teamwork, the workshop. We're in great hands again today with Ms. Renee Abdullah. Some other people said that they would be late, so we will have some other people joining us. But right now, we will go ahead and get started. Thank you all so much for joining us, and I will hand it over to you, Ms. Renee.
Thank you, Antonio. Good morning again to everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Antonio, for that song. Clearly, I am a Little Mermaid fan because I was over here partying and I had my Sebastian shirt on the other day that said the human world is a mess. So I'm happy now. Got my Tuesday started off right. So I want to welcome everyone. Again, my name is Renee Abdullah. This is the second to the last of the series, and we are going to focus on fostering teamwork today. I appreciate you all introducing yourselves in the chat. In addition to that, can you just put down what ages you work with on a daily basis, whether it's early childhood or even if you do 5 to 12th grade? I would like to know that as well, but just so that we know who is on the call. Thank you, Nancy. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And yeah. So again, my name is Renee Abdullah. We are looking again at this Preparing Youth to Thrive book. And that's what this training is really built off of. And what we are focusing on right now is teamwork. So we have done the emotion management, the empathy, responsibility, initiative, problem solving. We are going to really focus on fostering teamwork amongst youth. And how do we use our teamwork skills? And how do we pass those along to youth so they can be more effective working within teams? So this is our social emotional learning pyramid of program quality. So you may have seen this in another space where we've done other past trainings, or if you are familiar at all with the youth work method series. So this talks about what needs to be in place, what social emotional links need to be in place in order to have quality, effective programming for our youth. So of course, at the base of it, that's where we are creating our safe space. And then next up, we are building that supportive environment. So that's where we are fostering that growth mindset, right? Not that fixed mindset, but more so growth. It's not so much I'm born with it, so that's what I can do. It's more so I want to accomplish this so I can continue to grow. Also that scaffolding learning, so making sure that we are breaking things down so our youth are able to learn better and more effectively. And also that emotion coaching, so providing those supports that the youth need in order to succeed. The next part of the pyramid, and if you see me keep looking over here, is because I have two screens, and for some reason when I share, it always shares my presentation here. So I am not distracted. I am bouncing between two screens. Our next prong is that interactive environment. So once they feel safe, once they feel supported, they are now in a position where they can start that interaction. So this is where we cultivate that empathy, that understanding of you, promoting that responsibility and leadership. So we're giving them some accountability. We're almost handing the reins off to them, but building these authentic adult youth partnerships to make sure that we help them along the way. And this is also where fostering teamwork comes in place. So we are giving youth the chance to lead and mentor, but we are also working on those group processing skills. How do we work together as a group? We can easily put them in groups and say, hey, go get this done. But what does that even mean? What is step 1, step 2, step 3? Are we building those relationships? So we'll go more into that, of course, because that's what we're going to focus on this particular workshop. And at the very tip of that pyramid is that engaging environment. So we want to support whatever their plans and goals are. So this is where youth voice really comes into play. Let me move this out. There we go. So when we talk about the social emotional learning method sequence, this is what we went through so far. So you all started out with that essentials of an SEL framework. So you're able to see that's where that introductory was. You probably had Siobhan for that, where she gave you an oversight of what everything was. And then it's very strategic in how they deliver it. So they break it out into 3 different foundations, 3 different sets. So it's the foundations of self-awareness and cognitive development, and based off of that, you get that engaging youth in that supported struggle and also facilitating problem solving. And then the next reign of it is the foundations and self-awareness of emotional development. And that's where you talk about what emotion coaching is and cultivating empathy. And then last time we met, we did the foundations and self-awareness of social development. So a lot of the stuff you hear today, we may have touched on it briefly in the last workshop that we were together for 3 hours. But like I said, today, underneath that foundations and self-awareness of social development, we are going to focus on what is fostering teamwork. And then when we come back next month, we will talk about how to promote responsibility and leadership with you. So this just shows how it is a parallel process. We are building that pyramid, and within that pyramid, these essentials of SEL framework and everything that falls under it builds into what we're trying to connect with our youth within that SEL pyramid right here. So these are our objectives for today. We want you to be able to really define what teamwork is and understand what its role is within that SEL framework. So how does it fit within there? Apply 2 to 3 norm building techniques. So that just means within teamwork, what should be the norm when your youth get together and have to work as a team? Also understanding what are some of the common challenges of the group dynamic. So when you get into a team, what are some of the common challenges, and helping to identify what those may be before you actually have youth start working as a group so that they are more aware. It's kind of like that risk management, right? Before you go into a project, you understand what the risks are. Before you go into teamwork, you understand what are some challenges that we could face so that we can address them. Also, list 2 to 3 facilitation skills that build group identity and trust amongst youth. So that's really talking about what can we give our youth in order to make them more effective within their groups or within whatever team they are at that time. And apply scaffolding techniques that guide youth to build awareness of and manage challenges related to their communication skills, communication style. So really just breaking it down from, let's not just look at the big picture, let's break it down smaller so that we can really get to the center of what we're trying to do, and how to apply conflict resolution techniques. So of course, with every team that works together, there will be conflict that arises. So how do we apply some conflict resolution techniques within our groups? The agenda for today, we will do a welcome and setting the stage. So we kind of did that already. You kind of see where we are going with this thing today. We have an opening activity coming up. Then we will move into what the central ideas and practices are. And then the second half of this is really about application and implementing. So we will go through and do some of the activities in the workbook. There is a participant workbook for this. Antonio shared it in the chat. If you do not have it, just ping him in the chat and he'll resend, and make sure you get that. And housekeeping, of course, there's the participant workbook. So I do ask that you keep it handy. You do not have to print it out. It's just more of a guide. It is helpful as we're going through and filling some stuff out, but you can also have just a pen and paper on the side or take notes on a Word doc or whatever on your computer as we move through some of the activities. As far as cameras, you are more than welcome to join me on camera, but it's definitely not a requirement, whatever you feel comfortable. Let me see how many people we have. So I just do ask that if we get more people, we'll go into breakout rooms. If not, we will stay all together to work on different activities. I just do ask that when we are together working on activities, come off of mute and participate. And if anytime you have a question or you just want to add a little something to it, feel free to come off of mute and say whatever you want. This is very informal. It's not a formal presentation where you have to stay muted and just listen and take notes. It is based on participation and interaction. So these are some of our group agreements. So I'm just going to go ahead. This is one of the few slides that I will read verbatim just because they are our group agreements. And if you have anything you want to add to feel more comfortable in the space, please feel free to do so. So first, we say that learning is social. So just understand that we will be learning from one another as a community. Learning is also emotional and cognitive. So when we say it's emotional, that's we honor the emotions that we bring into this space as we engage in learning. We all work with youth. We are all passionate about it. That's what we love to do. That's why we're here. So understanding that learning is emotional, and a lot of comments or explanations come from a point of emotion. Learning is also cognitive. So we want to focus our attention and fully engage our minds. And we also recognize that in varying ways, life experiences such as bias and racism, geography, cultural backgrounds, age, gender, etc., can affect our learning experiences today. So some of my experiences and everything may be different from what you all are experiencing because I'm in the DC area and you all are in Kentucky. So it could be very different. So it's really important that we use this as a professional learning community to really come together and discuss what some of these best practices are. Are there any others that anyone would like to add? If you would like to add, go ahead and just throw that in the chat and we will recognize it as well. Just to give you all an idea, in addition to the agenda that I did share with you all, I know we're together for 2 hours. So I will make sure that I try to slide in a small break so that you all can try to get up and walk around for a second and breathe and then come back so that you are fully engaged. All right, so we are ready to move into our opening activity. So I want you to look at some of these images, and there are a bunch of random images here, right? So I want you to think of what are some of these images that really represent what it means to work with you, right? You can say, oh, it's a butterfly because they are growing from being a caterpillar to butterfly and flying on their own. I came up with that on the spot. But whatever image that you really relate to. When it comes to youth, it could be an image on here, or it could be an image, another image that pops in your head. I want to give you all a couple minutes to kind of think and process. And then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna ask you all to share your images, and then we're going to move into our first group activity. So it is 10:20 on my end. At 10:22, we're gonna come back and discuss what image represents youth for you or working with you. All right, it is 10:22. Does anyone care to share what image they chose?
I can share. I actually had two pop out to me. One, the music symbols at the bottom, just because music is forever around, right? And we're continuously educating and working with youth. So that kind of hit me, but then also just working with youth in the schools this year, somehow music has come up, whether it's us teaching and like we make it into a song, we make it into a dance. So that, but then a few images up is that wave, because I feel like there are times when it is, coasting easy, and then other times where it is super wavy and a little bit hectic. So those were the two that kind of jumped out to me immediately.
Thank you, Christina. You just have to go for the ride sometimes and see where it takes you.
Exactly.
I want to share Caesar, or unless that's abbreviated for something.
Cat.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. The Rubik's Cube stands out to me because it's all about finding the right fit for each. I don't know why it's trying to, it won't let me scroll up. Okay, for each, it's covered up with like a chat bubble. So I can't read the S word.
I got it. So Kat says, the Rubik's Cube stands out to me because it's all about finding the right fit for each square. With our youth, we are trying to facilitate healthy relationships, interests, etc. It's all about trying new roles, new ideas, and figuring out where our youth can shine.
I love it. Yes, absolutely. That Rubik's Cube, you have to get it all just right. And then once it's all together, they all come together and they are working together and fostering teamwork. And it's all yellow on one side, then white and red. I have yet to accomplish a Rubik's Cube, but kudos to anyone who can actually do it and it makes sense to them. Anyone else who would like to share what image they chose?
I chose the rainbow.
Okay.
Because of the multitude of different colors and the blending, where everything can be considered different and everything can also be considered in the same base. Everything can be considered the same. They're all colors and yet they're all different. And so, but when you put it all together, it's beautiful.
I love that. Yes, we are all different, but when it comes together, it just creates this beautiful image. So it just really shows you how different aspects of different people are really needed to make the whole thing work. Anyone else want to share?
I could share.
Thank you.
Yeah, for some reason I think it's like a dock underneath the stop sign that was just really standing out to
Yeah.
me. I wasn't sure why at first, and then I was just kind of thinking about it. And it kind of seems like a refuge or a safe space. Maybe like there's a crazy ocean behind it, and like that's a place where you can stay and rest, and just kind of take refuge. Or it could also kind of be seen as a jumping off point into something else, like new opportunities or just many different paths.
Yeah, I like that perspective. The dock stood out to me the first time I saw it too, almost like looking out into the ocean, a form of peace and calming and all of that. So thank you so much. So this is going to lead us into our first group activity, and we're all going to just stay in here. We're not going to go into separate breakout rooms. What I'm going to do is I'm sharing this link in the chat, and this will take you to a Jamboard. So what I want you all to do is come up with a team mascot logo, create an image that encompasses what all of you all think about when it comes to working with you. So kind of like you said with that rainbow, we all have different perspectives and different ideas, but we all come together to form one cohesive image that represents what our youth are. So when you all come up with this, let me just, for a second, if anybody has not used Jamboard before, I am just going to share my screen, I think. No, I'm not. First, I'm going to open this. Okay. Share. Hopefully everyone can see the Jamboard on my end.
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. I am like so awesome when it comes to this technology, kind of, sort of. So when you go to create your image, it should be one image that all comes together or one logo that all comes together. You can input different images here by clicking on this. It looks like mountains inside of a square. You can click on there, insert some images. You can click on the T within the box and do a text box and put any kind of words you want into it. You can set the different color backgrounds, whatever. But you all need to discuss together and come up with a centralized logo or mascot when it comes to working with you. What is going to be representative of working with you? So it is 10:28. I'm gonna give you all, I know it's not a long time, I'm gonna give you all about 10 minutes to work on that. So at 10:38, when you see me come back on camera, that means we are back in action and we're going to share out the logo and the meanings of it and everything else. Does anyone have any questions?
So we're working together to come up with one logo, right? As a group.
Correct, yes. It should all be on this first page. You all come together, you can figure out who does what in the team and come up with one centralized image.
Right.
Good? All right, I will see you guys at 10:38.
Okay, so what was everybody's thing again? Christina, yours was what was your image?
I had the music symbols and then the waves.
Okay.
And then I think Kat said the Rubik's Cube. I think Nancy said the rainbow.
Okay.
And then Elena,
Yeah, I said the dock.
the dock. Okay.
And then for me, it would have been like the window. Okay, so we got music, and then what's like a slash, waves, Rubik's Cube, rainbow, dock, and a window. So I think you all were pretty like philosophical and maybe able to piece these together better than I. So I don't know if we like look for a thread or if we just choose something.
I like the comment here. I think it says the logo maybe should feature a picture of a youth since they're the center of our work. Yeah, I think
Cool.
that could be a cool idea.
Okay, so definitely having a young person in there. And then Kat said having a young person, a youth looking out a window at the waves rolling. And then there could also be like maybe like a little rainbow, maybe some music playing. I don't know. So let's see. I don't
I'm not a
know
great artist, so
exactly. That's what I'm saying. So it'll be or if anybody does think they're pretty good at drawing, wants to take a stab at drawing. That's not my strength. Is that anybody else's strength?
Not mine for sure.
Cool.
Is
Do
there
you have
any, I wonder if there's any of those pictures we can, I don't know what, I don't know how to use this very well, but if we can go in and get some photos, yeah, where you can, they move around easily.
gotcha. And you know, there's also shapes too. So we can do some photos and then like Kat says she's on it. Like there's this like half, I don't know if that can be like a little rainbow or something.
I like that one.
Oh,
It's gonna be very primitive. Oh wait, no, that's not how a rainbow goes. See, it goes across.
yes, that's classic.
You see, okay, so yeah, I'm like, wait a second, that doesn't look right. Okay,
Nice.
thank you. All right, now wait, let me go back to this description. A youth looking out a window. So maybe somebody could draw like a stick person or something as a young person. So I see things moving, but on my end, it's like things are loading. Do you all see images?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have, it's a, I would say a young person looking out a window at water with the rainbow kind of like off in the distance of the water with a little music coming off of that.
Okay. So yeah, on my end, it's just 3 dots that keep blinking. I don't see any of those images. So is that, let me see. Renee, could you stop sharing so that somebody else could share so I could see what we have?
Sure.
All right, could somebody share their screen so that I could see those images? I wish you all could see what I see. Like it's literally like 3 dots. Like actually.
Let me know if you need me to share it. So I can share it from my end too. Oh, wait a minute. Participants here. Let me just put out what you have, Antonio. Whoop. Share. Are you able to see it now?
That is amazing. Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. Okay. Yes. That okay. Yeah. I think that is it right there. Yeah. So can you unshare? I'll show you all what I see. And I'm like, you all see why I was so amazed to see that. Like, do you all see these 3 dots just blinking? That's all I see. So I'm like, what is really
Really
going on?
different.
So
That's
when I
funny.
saw, yeah, when I saw that masterpiece, I'm like, wow. So yeah. Cool. That looks really good. I wish I could see it though. I don't know what's going on.
You all have about 2 more minutes unless you are done.
You want to add anything else?
I've got nothing to add unless anyone else does.
I think I'm good as well.
Me too.
Alrighty.
All right.
All right, so we're going to come back. I am actually going to go back and share the screen so you can see, Antonio, what you created as well. And I'm going to try to zoom in. Oh, crap. I zoomed in too far. There we go. Hopefully you can see the whole thing, a little zoomed in. Would anyone like to just explain this image and what it means and such?
I think what we were trying to achieve is combine all of our different ideas and perspectives of youth work. And it kind of seems like we combined all of our different images. So, you know, youth, the center of what we're doing, looking out through a window at the ocean, at waves. It kind of gives the same idea of the dock that I was talking about. And we have a rainbow, you know, different colors all coming together. And we have some music. I think that could kind of represent creativity and the work that we do. So yeah, I think all of these ideas here that we talked about are present for sure.
I was just going for it on mute. Thank you so much for sharing that. Let me stop sharing just so we can get back to us. All right. So yeah, so that was all about really starting to touch on what is teamwork and what are some aspects that come together to really start discussing what, like how does teamwork even work? Like we got together, we said we had to create this image. And then if you all think about it, you all started to naturally take on roles, right? So one person said, all right, I remember this person had this image and another person had this image. And Antonio said, okay, well, let me take some notes of it over here. And I'm going to take on the role of trying to create for you. And then we had some other input and we had some input through the chat. So everyone took on a different role within that group to come together and create that team mascot or logo. So I want to know, did you all experience any kind of like aha moments as you were creating that, as creating the mascot or the logo, or can you share anything that was challenging as you all were going through creating the logo together? Other than the 3 dots that were constantly cycling, were there any other challenges trying to create that?
For me, the biggest challenge was like the skill required to create like a logo. You know, that's something that is a visual element. So like some type of visual art background, maybe something that is necessary for that. So not having the skill for that kind of makes it primitive for me. But yeah, that was it, just the skills that was required in trying to be skillful in this.
And that represents sometimes the intimidation factor that our youth face sometimes, and it can often shut a youth down, right? If we give them something to do and say, hey, you should use this clay to create a sculpture of yourself. If I feel like I'm not an artist and I'm not an artist, I may shut down and say, you know what? I don't even want to do this. I don't want to do this. I know I'm part of the team. Just let me be the one that shares out at the end, because I am not the artist. So I'm gonna let you all do whatever you do, and I'll take on the role of sharing out. So that really speaks to the level of challenge, how we can scaffold it for our youth. I could have just put you all directly in rooms and gave you a blank slate and said, hey, come up with a logo for you. But instead, first we went through that first challenge of, hey, here's a bunch of images so you can start generating ideas and start deep thinking and thinking beyond what the image is at face value, pretty much. Is there anyone else that would like to share?
I think whenever you have different but equally valid perspectives on something, it's always really interesting, and it can be an obstacle to try to put them all together in like one cohesive unit. But I think we did that really well.
Absolutely. I agree. I agree with the chat too. You all are awesome. Yes, you all really worked together. There was no kind of frustration. There was nobody who said, I'm not contributing at all. I'm just going to sit back and let them do the work. You all really took on the challenge of trying to build what this mascot is. We kind of talked about this a little bit, but is there anything that you realized during this team mascot activity? I just want you all to kind of get in the habit of being able to refer to your participant workbooks. So the participant workbook is shared through that link, that PDF that Antonio put in the chat. But when you open it, it will look like this: fostering teamwork. Whoop. And then the page that I'm referring to right now is page 12. So these are some reflection questions when it comes to this particular activity. So this is something that you can also use for youth. I mean, we have the word mascot in there now, but at the end of something, or at the end of teamwork, if we want the youth to come together and start really reflecting on how effective that teamwork was, we could give them something like this and say, something I realized during the team activity is blank. So that really takes it away from just whatever the goal was or whatever the academic side of it was, to really understanding what may be some challenges when it comes to that actual teamwork. We have to understand that sometimes these youth are working with one of their peers that they may not have worked with before. So they can't just jump right into that teamwork, right? We can't just expect them to jump into the third or the fourth tier of that pyramid. We have to create that safe space for them first, in that supportive environment where they get to know each other and get to understand each other and really foster those relationships before we can even go into the teamwork aspect of it. So here are central ideas and practices. If you want to, and these are up here, but they're also outlined in your workbook on page 5. So if you want to refer later on, it is page 5 of your workbook. But I just want to go through what are some key youth experiences when it comes to teamwork, and what does it look like as far as youth interaction when it comes to fostering this teamwork amongst youth. So teamwork is what it says right here: the ability to collaborate and coordinate actions with others. So that really means just coming together, collaborating to reach one common goal. And there are 3 different aspects of the key youth experiences. So the first one is, yeah.
Real quick, could you share your screen?
Oh, I'm just talking. I'm looking at the presentation for sure. Thank you. Let's go back. Why not? Can you see it?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. And you all went away and everything else. There we go. So when it comes to the 3 different key youth experiences, we want to look at what trust and cohesion, that collaboration, and also the challenge of it all. So team challenge. So when it comes to trust and cohesion, this is when you develop those group cohesion and trust. So that is really about developing in a relationship, developing that trust to say, okay, I'm going to let you take the lead on this part. I'm going to let you take the lead on this part. We often know that this is hard. When you were in college and you got put in the groups to write that paper, it was like, do I really have to rely on this person who never turns in anything until the last second? And our project is due in 2 hours. They haven't sent me my part yet. You know what? Let me just go ahead and write that part just in case, because that trust and cohesion was not built. We were just put in the groups and told us to figure it out. So we must make sure that youth are able to develop the knowledge, skills, and aptitudes of like teamwork through that membership in well-functioning teams. So really understanding what knowledge each person has, what are people's strongest skills. I might not give the person who is not a strong writer a portion of the paper to write. I may have them do the research for me. So just understanding what these skills and knowledge is in order to gain even this trust and cohesion. Writing is not a strong part for me, so please don't give me the paper to write in the end. Let me just do all the research for you. I'll even present it for you in class. But when it comes to the actual writing, I want to give it to my person who likes to read and write all day, because their multiple intelligence that they're strongest in is being able to write and being able to foster words onto the paper. Like words just make sense to them. You know, these people, they will send you emails with 8 paragraphs in it, and you're like, please just send me bullet points the next time, because I'm a table person. I'm very straightforward. So also just understanding what each person's high multiple intelligences are. So we know that we are all born with 8 different multiple intelligences, and some are higher than others. So that's why you have your musicians who are able to just hear music and play by ear, or hear a choir or hear a band and know that the tenor was off a little bit, or know that the trumpet didn't quite come in at the same time, because their musical intelligence is high. Then we have those who are high in our math people, right? They will make a problem solving, strategic Excel spreadsheets. They love them. That's me. I love me a good Excel spreadsheet. I will Excel spreadsheet you for whatever you want. Because that just makes more sense to me, where I'm able to see it just kind of like in a spreadsheet, in a table, in bullet points, bolding, like color coordinated. Yes, I'm not a kindergartner, but I keep a pack of Crayola markers because I have to have my stuff color coded, okay? My title has to be one color, because that's how I learn, that's how I function. That doesn't make me any better or any worse than the next person who can function by saying, you know what? Let me just read these 12 pages of research real quick, and I'm gonna write a summary up for you. Please don't do that to me. I'm not that person, but understanding that that's because that's not what I'm high in when it comes to my multiple intelligence. So being able to really get to know one another and create that cohesion amongst you so they can understand what each other's strengths are. So within this trust and cohesion, this is where we focus on team building. So having that team building in the beginning, not just coming into a space and saying, all right, I'm gonna put you all in groups today. A, you go with B, Z, you're paired with Z, you're paired with X, go figure it out. Instead, coming together, understanding what some of our commonalities are, understanding how we connect in different ways, making sure that we are intentional in choosing groups. We want to make sure the same groups are not always working together, because in the real world, that's not how it works. You don't get to choose who your team members are at work. You just have to work with them and come up with this common goal. So being able to be intentional in how we pair you together so that different skill levels are paired together and they can get to know one another. So one effective method is putting them in groups and saying, hey, I want you all to find 3 commonalities amongst you all. Now you may sit down initially and say, I mean, we have nothing in common. We really don't. We really don't. But after this, see, now I know Antonio is a Disney fan. He loves The Little Mermaid. He's looking forward to July, just like I am, because The Little Mermaid gets released. Would have never known. But it took us being in a different space and saying, oh, okay. So being able to really identify what some of those commonalities are. If you says, you know what, I cannot stand the color blue, and another person's like, you know what, I don't like blue either. And these two youth may not have ever connected, but because of whatever the team building activity was, or whatever space we put them in, they were able to really identify what those commonalities are. So now I have more respect for you when I'm in the group and I'm trying to communicate with you. Collaboration. So this is where youth participate in successful collaboration. So youth work together towards that shared goal. So having goals is important because it really puts that purpose and mission into specific goals. Into specific terms. So that's the big goals as well as the smaller goals. So in the end, yes, I want to create a sculpture that represents, how this year went for me. The smaller goals, let's break it on down. All right, I need the first goal is for everyone to submit how they feel about how this school year has gone. The second goal is for everyone to discuss how they think they can contribute to the sculpture. So now I have my big goal here, but then I'm also setting those smaller goals. So we talked about that scaffolding as well. Next is communication skills. This is a huge one. This is one that our youth need now because we don't talk to one another as much, right? When my phone rings, I look at it like, oh my goodness, why are you calling me? Can you text? You can't text me instead? Because now it's like talking on the phone is strange almost, especially for our youth. They talk through social media, they talk on text, they talk, I guess, but they don't really communicate. They don't have those communication skills because they are not put in situations where it is necessary. They're in school all day. They kind of communicate. Then once they're outside of the school building, technology runs their life. Technology runs our lives. I'm pretty sure everyone has their cell phone somewhere within 5 to 10 feet of them. If not, I commend you. That is very impressive because mine is right here. Because technology is really running our youth's lives and it's not going to get any better in the future. Nothing wrong with that. It's great to have advancements in technology, but we want to make sure that they continue to build whatever those communication skills are. We want to make sure that their contributions are valued. So we want to make sure that everyone is involved in this. So that's very important that everyone has some input, and it's great being able to work in smaller groups because now you will get the input of not just the one that is comfortable raising their hand and participating in front of the class every day, but when you're in smaller groups, you have some of those more introverted students that feel a little bit more comfortable speaking out in the smaller groups, but also understanding when they get into those groups, if I'm not contributing, it's not because I don't have anything to say, I just don't feel as comfortable coming out and speaking like a person, the leader of the group that comes and says, okay, guys, let's all come together. So what do you want to do? What do you think about this? It's always that one person in the group. All right, let's do this. So let's plan it out. And then it's the other person that's kind of sitting there like, yeah, that's fine. Not that I don't care any less, but I'm just not that person. I'm not that social person. I want to contribute, but also I'm just not like, hey, here I am. I'm in a group. I came in and said, oh, great. Group work, my favorite. Not. I'm being very sarcastic. Not my favorite. So you have to understand that there are some people that just are not comfortable in that teamwork. So that's why those making sure that contributions are valued and also finding different ways that they are able to contribute. So it may not be always speaking up. It may be through writing. It may be through contributing in other ways through technology, but we want to make sure that all contributions are valued. And that last aspect is the team challenge. So here is where youth manage challenges to creating and maintaining effective working relationships. So for just understanding that poor communication skills and group dynamics can negatively impact teamwork, because now we're focused on the fact that we can't even communicate with one another, or we don't even get along within our group. So no, yes, we are still on step one. We are nowhere near step 2, 3, or 4, because we can't get past the group dynamics that are here, or we can't get past these poor communication skills. And that's where we come in, and we try to create this cohesion and this understanding and help them to resolve whatever conflict that they are having in the groups. We want to make sure that we have youth feel comfortable enough to move out of some of those kind of regimented roles, right? The regimented roles where one person just talks the whole time and everybody else is just kind of sitting back and saying, you know what, they got it, I'll let them do it. And then, you have some youth that just don't have interest, so they're goofing around the whole time, right? They're just kind of all over the place doing what they want to do. Another person that doesn't talk much, but we want to make sure that they come out of their comfort zones, and that we encourage youth to come out of their comfort zones and say, you know what, I know you're usually the one that talks all the time and you're usually the one that leads. Let's let this other person lead. I know that you seem to not be interested and you're doing everything else. What is something that helps you focus? So I went into a classroom one time, and they had it was an after school program, and it was a social emotional learning session where they come together and they discuss different life experiences and everything else. And it's really focused on like sharing what you feel comfortable with and what's going on in life and everything else. But as they were doing this, they also had clay, and they were creating like these structures and creating whatever they wanted to out of this clay molds. And so at the end, I asked them, I said, okay, I thought this was the social emotional side of things. Why were they doing an art project at the same time? And he said, because I have some in my group that all they can focus on when they come to my classroom is when are they going to get to the gym for basketball, or all they can focus on in my classroom is how they don't want to sit around and discuss their life. But by giving them this other thing to do, which kind of distracts them, now they're focused, and they just had a very natural, organic conversation. It didn't seem forced. It was kind of like, oh, we're working on our art projects and just having a casual discussion amongst one another. Never did I hear them say, oh, basketball, or oh, let's go to the gym, or oh, let's go outside. And they even had a friend or two come in and say, oh, okay, I'm going to the gym. But because they were distracted by doing something else other than just sitting there focused, which I loved it, and I completely understand, because I'm also not the person that can just sit there and focus. I need to do something. So when I do like in-person stuff, I make sure that I come with toys for adults too, like these little block men that you can kind of like twist around and make different shapes out of. I don't care if you do that while I'm training, or I don't care if you do that while I'm teaching. I had somebody come in and they were knitting the whole time I was teaching, and I'm good with that, because that makes you more focused on what I'm doing. But if I'm the type that always needs to move around or needs to have some kind of movement at some point, I'm not focused on what you're doing. All I'm doing is focusing on the fact that I need to sit here and not move or anything like that. And now I'm stressed, I'm not focused, I'm just more so just trying to get through. So getting those youth out of those regimented roles and understanding how we can make them feel more comfortable doing that. Also recognizing differences in opinions and personalities, and establishing what those group norms are as well. So we want to make sure that we understand that there are differences of opinion, there are differences of personalities. It's going to start here in this classroom, and it's not going to end until you retire and you are in Florida sipping coffee at 9 a.m. while everyone else is working. Until then, you are going to have differences of opinion. You're going to have differences in personalities, and you're going to have to work through it. But the first part of it is to recognize it. We want to make sure that we're not just saying, oh, don't even worry about it, just get it done. No, I recognize that you need this to feel comfortable, or I recognize that you are not the happy person that is bouncing off the walls or coming in like, good morning, here I am. It's not that you like me any less. It's not that you want to be here any less. I understand that's just not who you are, so I'm going to approach you different. So those are our key youth experiences here. But then we want to talk about what are some of the staff practices that are necessary in order to foster this teamwork amongst our youth. So the first is structure. So this is where staff really provides programs with norms and structure. So staff really needs to model how to establish these norms and take ownership of the norms and reinforcing the norms. So if we say, when you come in this classroom, this is what should be done. These are the norms of when you enter a room. Youth need and they want structure. They want to know what is expected. Just like when you go to work, you want to know what is expected of you. If you don't tell me my norms or my expectations up front, don't come to me at the end of the year when it's time to do an evaluation on how I did and say I didn't follow the norms or the structure that I didn't know anything about. So we want to make sure that we are really establishing what are the norms and what are the structures and the fact that I'm reinforcing it. When it comes to modeling, this is when staff model teamwork skills with youth. So if you say you're going to do something, you got to make sure you do it. Think about how youth are interpreting and thinking about what you are saying and doing. So sometimes we may tell youth a certain thing or tell them how to do something, and they end up doing the complete opposite. And you're thinking, okay, I know I told you to do it. Why didn't you do it? Well, maybe it could have been in the way we delivered it or the way that they understood it, because we know what we want. So when we tell them, we just assume that they're going to do what we say. But it could be that our communication was not clear enough. So checking for that understanding. Making sure that you are paying attention to your own behavior and actions and the impact that that has on the youth. So making sure that we are always setting the norms, setting the standards for our youth to say, this is how we should come together. This is how we should work together when you're in your teams. This is how we communicate with one another. This is how we solve different disagreements. So when it comes to the last part is facilitating, and that's when the staff facilitate or intervene as needed to foster or sustain youth-led dynamics and successful collaboration. So this is where that conflict comes up, right? When a conflict within a group, making sure that we address it right away and reframe it. However, we don't want to take ownership of that conflict. We want the youth to take ownership of the conflict. So how would you resolve it? Because we're going to get through this issue. Tomorrow, you may have a whole different issue. So I cannot step in and solve your problems for you all alone, because at some point, you need to determine what are the best steps in resolving conflict within a group. So that's when you kind of play that monitor, participant, coach role, where I'm kind of monitoring. I am working alongside youth, but I'm letting youth take the lead on that. So we want to make sure that there is a two-way communication. So this is where participants do most of the talking and the facilitator kind of just guides the learning through the strategic questions. So letting the youth take the lead, we're having a two-way conversation, but I'm letting the youth lead this conversation. I'm asking them open-ended questions so that they can get to whatever their goal or their target is, and they're able to answer that question themselves. So for this, you may try a 5 whys activity, right? And when I say 5 whys activity, youth are trying to solve a problem. And then we say, well, why do you think this is? Well, I think this is because blah, 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 blah. Okay, so why do you think that exists? And just keep building on the why until you get to that bullseye where, okay, now we have solved this problem. Now I'm understanding where we need to go with this. We want to make sure that we define the process with input from the youth. Also, making sure that our youth are learning through experience, letting youth fail sometimes because, and not, I don't mean like fail out of school or anything like that, but we can't always hold their hand. They have to learn from their mistakes. If we constantly handhold them or tell them, don't do this, sometimes that adultism will come in where it's kind of like, I'm the adult, I know what's best, listen to me, do it my way. And we want to make sure that we are doing the opposite of that. We want to make sure that our youth are learning through action. Also, learners are taking an active role. So we are helping them to take an active role in their learning and of course, focus on the feelings and attributes as well as the information. So thank you for giving me the information, but I want to know, what did it feel like to work in that group? What would have made it better? What kind of supports do you need to be more successful the next time that you all work together? So with that, we are at 11:06. I do want to give you all a break before we start rolling into how we are going to implement and everything for the youth that you work with on a daily basis. So it is 11:06. Let's come back at 11:12. And then we're going to go into more application and implementation. I will see you soon. All right, it's 11:12. We are officially back. Hope everyone refilled their water, coffee, whatever you need. So now we are going to move into, now that we've gone through what the different aspects of fostering teamwork are and what needs to be present, we are going to move into the application and implementation of things. So this is where I ask you to go ahead and get those workbooks handy again, because the next thing we're going to do is do the Starburst identity chart. So that will be found on page 6 in the workbook. So it looks like this, if you can see this, yeah. So the Starburst identity chart. So here, I want you all to do some teamwork again. Come up with, in the center of the circle, I want you to come up with the team name. And that can represent whatever you want it to. So come up with the team name together. And then I want you all to start thinking about, what skills do you bring to a team when it comes to teamwork? So for me, like I said, I'm the charts person. I can be the presenter person. That's me. That's my strengths in a team. You may be the writer. You may be the researcher. You may be the speaker. You may be whatever your skills are. That's what goes in the arrows that point outward. So if you have those skills, put in those arrows that point outward, and you all can just discuss it right now. But then we also want to think about, what are some limitations that you have or support you need as a team in order to be successful. So think about different projects you work on or different things you try to implement for you. What are some outside supports you may need, or what are some limitations that you may have when it comes to really fostering that effective teamwork? So those would be the arrows pointing inward. So those inward pointing arrows are the supports that you need. The outward pointing arrows are your strengths and what you bring to the table. So I am going to have you all work together again, come up with a team name, and start talking about some of those skills and attributes that will go in the arrows that point out, and some of those supports and limitations that exist, and those will be on the arrows that point in. Are there any questions? All right. Silence is golden, they say. It is 11:15. I'm gonna give you all about 10 minutes to kind of work on this, because I do want you all to have some time to kind of reflect on what your own skills are, so that you all are able to share with each other. So go ahead and talk amongst each other, come up with a team name, and fill in those arrows for me. So I will see you at 11:25.
Any ideas on a team name? I'm pretty bad at coming up with names usually.
Kat said, should we think about what we have in common? Which one that we all work with youth?
All right, sorry about that. I had to step away. Are we doing what's the activity right now?
Yes. So right now you're going to page 6 in your workbook. It's the Starburst identity chart. In the circle, you're coming up together with a team name. And the arrows that point out are skills that each of you bring to the table when it comes to doing teamwork. And the inward pointing arrows are supports or limitations that may occur when it comes to teamwork or additional supports you may need. So we have some stuff going on in the chat, but that's what you all are doing.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
I
No
think
problem.
I
And
think
can you, Renee, can you unshare your screen, please?
Sure. Oops, stop.
I think it might be easier for us. So let me catch up in the chat. Youth collaborate. I was thinking that too. Should we really have? So do we already have the group name? Did y'all come up with that already?
I think it might be youth collaborators if everyone's good with that.
Okay. Cool. Let me see. And I put the Jamboard link in there so we could have a common view. I'm on the second page. And I'll also share my screen so that we can all see. So like, let me see. What is it? Strengths that we bring to the team? I think. Is that what that was? Strengths that we bring and then things that we need from the team? Is that correct, you all?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think it's limitations or supports we need as a team.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. Okay. So I guess maybe like either like write in with the tool text box things that we need under each, or if anybody wants to call them out, I can write them, or if you want to post other sticky notes on there, you do that with the fourth one down. But in regards to strengths, we got, let's see, Passion. I think everybody has access to this. Miss Nancy, I don't know if you have it, but what would you say the strengths that you bring to the team, Miss Nancy?
Oh. I would say definitely, like she was talking about the writing skills.
Okay.
Um, and the researching skills and the trainings, the many 20 something years in this field.
Gotcha. So researching, and then so in regards to training, is that like leading trainings or being able to like train others?
Yeah, to share knowledge, I guess.
Gotcha. Okay. Awesome. Thank you. How much time do we have, Renee?
You have about 3 more minutes.
Okay, gotcha. Alrighty, and then limitations and supports we need as a team. Awesome, you got a lot over here. Awesome. All right, and on the other side, limitations and supports we need as a team. What do I need? I know I need patience.
Funding and money.
What are good ones? Limitations. I guess kind of we know each other like a little bit, but I don't think we know each other like deeply. So which hey, that N is just chilling right there. Supportive work environments. Oh, I think it's Cat. So Cat doesn't have what is that? She can't talk or something within the so there's like technological limitations.
I'd say the ability to fully, I don't know how to, what words this is, but the ability to fully understand what our youth are dealing with in today's environment.
You all have about 1 minute.
Some all right. Oh, what's the group name is Youth Collaborators, right?
Right.
All right. Who would like to share out what you all came up with as far as the strengths and the limitations? I see you all are the youth collaborators.
So for the strengths that we bring to the team, so we got passion, enthusiasm, writing, our creativity, social emotional curriculum, listening skill, differentiating instruction and lessons, we can share knowledge, research, and writing skills. So that's what we possess as a team. And then on the right, some of the limitations and supports that we need as a team. Need a supportive work environment, need mentorship opportunities, time and space to self-regulate and care for self-care. Yes. Limitations that we got weak relationships amongst each other, some technological limitations. We need funding and money. We need patience, and we need some team building supports. And we need to have the ability to fully understand the needs and experiences of our youth in today's environment.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. So we kind of have you go through this just so that a lot of times when we get together in teams and try to have our youth work in groups and work on group processing skills and everything, we don't often have them kind of take step one where it says, okay, what are our strengths? What are we working towards? What kind of supports do we need? So this is a really good activity for you to use before they go into a group, or as soon as they go into a group, so they can start identifying what are some of the strengths and some of the skills that exist within the group, so that I know who to rely on for different roles. Of course, we want to make sure that they have those interdependent roles where if my team member number 2 leaves, my group suffers because they were the one that was bringing the passion to present out to the group and everything. So now I got to be the one to present, and I don't even like talking to people. So understanding what those interdependent roles are with the youth, but also having youth to start doing some self-reflection. I can talk about other people all day and give other people their accolades all day, but the biggest challenge I face is talking about myself and what I'm good at and what I can do and everything else. It's often harder to talk about yourself than it is to give accolades or to talk about other people. So this gives you time and space to stop and have the youth have some self-reflection to say, what am I good at? What do I enjoy doing? What do I like doing? And how can this translate to whatever we're doing in this team? So feel free to take this particular activity back to your youth when you are having them start to work in teams or practice those group processing skills. But it also helps them to identify what kind of support do I need to even make this happen, okay? You want me to build this, I don't even know where to start. So I need some support from my staff member in the room to tell me, how does this play even work? Do I need to put a little water on it to make it work? Can I combine colors? I need more supports from the outside. I need time. You all are giving me one session that you may say, hey, after we think through this, I actually need like 3 or 4 sessions with you before I can even accomplish that goal. So those are some of my limitations too. It's the fact that you're only giving me an hour block to achieve this goal. And I don't think that I can achieve the goal within that hour block. So really helping to self-identify, but also letting you as a staff know, this is what my youth are saying they need from me, because they may identify some needs that we never even thought about before. So this is a very effective activity for amongst staff members when it comes to trying to get a project off the ground or anything like that. But it's very helpful for our youth as well to start some of that self-reflection and identifying what some of those strengths are. So this is just a takeaway reflection just to refer you back to some of the pages that are in the workbook. And I'm going to refer you back to page 12 where we did that first reflection question after the team mascot activity. So back on page 12, you'll see question number 2 that says, think of a time when you've been part of a team and how was this experience different? So just giving you some different reflections, questions, or some question starters to start giving youth at the end of teamwork. So they may say, you know what, I never actually sat down and was able to do a get to know you activity with my teammates before we jumped into the project. Or, you know what, normally I work with my same 3 friends, so we know each other. So this was different because I had to get to know the people first. I don't know what they're good in. I just know that Sue is quiet at the back of the classroom all the time, and Mark is always the one raising his hand, and that's all I knew about him. So this was a different experience because I am very much in the middle. We have another extreme that is very quiet, and we have the other extreme that talks a lot. So that was a different experience for me because I wasn't able to work with my friends as I normally did in other teamwork settings. So this just gives you some ideas on how you can generate those reflection questions after you bring you together back from working in teams. So we also want to make sure that we are addressing what some of the common conflicts are in teamwork. So we know that conflict arises, but what are some conflicts that may arise when it comes to working in teams? So this is really doing that risk management, risk assessment prior to getting started. So I'm flipping through the presentation again and not sharing.
Yeah.
I know that look. Thank you. I'm going for it. All right. So identifying common conflicts in teamwork. So this is another page in your workbook. If you go to page 10, it'll say at the top, application and common conflicts brainstorming. So what I'm going to do is have you all, you can do this on your own now, just kind of do a self-reflection, and then we are going to do a share out. So for the first question, what are some common conflicts that come up when youth are working in teams? So this is all about the professional learning community. What are some things that you see? Another person may see some conflicts as well. So I want you to think about what are some common conflicts that youth come up with when they're working in teams. And then we will go to the second part. So for the first session, the first question, I want you all to take about 5 minutes to do a little self-reflection first, and then go ahead and just jot it down. And then we will go into the second question and take a few minutes to do that. And then we will do a share out so that we can share some of the common practices and some of the common conflicts that we see. So it is 11:33. I'm gonna give you until 11:42 to reflect on this first question and come up with some answers. So what are some common conflicts that come up when youth are working together in teams? Talk about some common conflicts that they identified. Please do so. So Christina said some common conflicts that I see is youth talking over each other, annoying or aggravating behaviors, and not listening to each other. All 3 of those can lead to an argument or something being said out loud that is taken as disrespect. Absolutely. Those are very common conflicts that we see amongst youth. Did anyone come up with anything else?
One thing,
Common conflicts. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Elena.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say one thing that I see a lot is not distributing the work evenly. And then also letting maybe some, I think this was already said, like interpersonal conflict kind of get in the way of what they're doing.
Thank you, Elena. We see that all the time. Other ones, too many chiefs, self-centered mindsets, lack of interest, not in the mood, interpersonal conflict and carryover from other settings, lack of affirmation of identity and input, bickering, misunderstanding, assumptions, not giving each other the benefit of the doubt. See, and I don't know if we're describing youth working together in teams or adults, because we all have the same issue as well. People not pulling their weight, bringing in issues from another meeting that they had nothing to do with me. Common trust of each other. Well, are we talking about youth or adults, right? But these are just commonalities, conflicts that arise just when working with a team, period. Traumas and triggers. Absolutely. This comes up a lot in group work. You never know what is something, it could be the smallest thing that can trigger someone and it can go left immediately. And it could be the tiniest thing because they brought in so much from a previous session, or they got in trouble before they came into your classroom, or their best friend stole their pencil and broke it, even though I have another pencil for you. All of these things are things that we see that will stop effective teamwork. So we need to make sure that we are establishing norms in the beginning. We talked about that before, how norms have to be established. We will not talk over one another. And let the youth take ownership of what the norms are going to be set. So what do you think rules need to be in place when we work together in teams to make sure that we are effective? Okay, well, when I'm talking, I don't need anybody else to talk. All right, well, let's put that down. Well, I want my opinion to be respected. Everyone always seems to not respect what I say. Okay, so we're going to respect each other's opinion. All right, I need to also make sure that, you know, you're not misunderstanding me. If you don't understand something, ask me for clarification. So now we're setting these norms up front, and we're also pointing out different things that could arise that makes the teamwork less effective, or make sure that you do not get to your goals. So now you have put the norms in place. You're taking accountability for it. You're taking action for it. So now if you talk over one another, then I'm gonna look at you and say, well, you came up with the rule not to talk over one another. And look what you're doing. Now it will negatively affect the team. But we also want to make sure that we are giving them the whys behind the what. A lot of times we establish rules, but we do not establish why those rules are in place. I recently did some training for some at the DC library, some librarians from all around DC. And they told me that one of the rules is you're not allowed to sleep in the library. And I just didn't understand that at all. I said, that makes no sense. I read a book, I get tired. What if I fall asleep on my table? Or after all day of school, I'm waiting for my mom to pick me up from the library, I may fall asleep on the table. Why can't I sleep? Why are you all making such a big deal about it? Well, when they told me the why behind the what, well, now I have an understanding of it and I'm more accepting. They said, you know what? We have a lot of people that come in off the street. We may think that they're asleep, but they may have had some kind of medical emergency, or we've had somebody who was passed out and we didn't know, we thought they were asleep. That's why the rules are established that there can't be sleeping in the library, because I am accountable for every person that walks in and out. So as the youth or as an outside person, now I understand why this rule exists. But if you just told me, as soon as you come in here, make sure you don't sleep, or every time I go to sleep, wake up. Okay, why? But now I have more of an understanding. So we want to make sure that they establish the rules and the norms, but we also want to make sure that we are always giving them the why behind that what. Does anybody else want to share anything before we go to the second part of this? All right. So I want you all to think about using the staff practices we discussed. So that is the structure and the modeling and the facilitating. What ways could you utilize these practices to address the conflicts? So I want you to think about that for a few minutes. I'm gonna give you all about another 5 minutes to think about how you can address some of these conflicts using either structure, modeling, facilitating, in order to make it to make the teamwork more effective. I'm gonna give you all 5 minutes. We're gonna come back. We're going to discuss. We are going to jump into a reflection, and then we are going to close out. So you all have 5 minutes.
Including us as facilitators. We give everyone a chance to talk about how they're feeling. So we kind of do a temperature check, or like, I guess, an emotional temperature check, where everyone gets a chance to give a word about how they feel and give some updates about what's going on in their life. And I kind of think that helps build trust and have everyone know what's going on with everyone and reduce some of that tension.
Thank you, Elena. That is definitely very effective. The passing of the bear or an object to say, okay, this is the person that has control right now. This is the person that has the floor. Let's respect them as so. So that is definitely a very effective way of dealing with the conflict or the over talking or anything else like that. And also modeling is very important as well, right? So we have to make sure that we model for the youth what we want them to see. Does anybody else want to share some of the techniques they may use?
Molly, I missed the first part. I've had to step out for a minute, but didn't anybody mention group agreements?
Gotcha.
Okay. So yeah, so like for the structure, establishing like group agreements, like prior to like at the beginning of like program years or whatnot, but also going over them before like activities, just so everybody knows what the group norms are and what the expectations are prior to doing an activity, and just always reinforcing those by going over them every day.
Yeah, the reinforcement, right? Just because you talked about it on day one, they don't remember it on day 64 or day 122. So establishing those norms and reinforcing those norms, like Elena said, doing a pulse check, temperature check. When you come in, tell me how you feeling. 1, 3, or 5, 1, you really don't want to be here. 3, I'm here, but I'm not really feeling it. 5, I was looking forward to it. That way, you understand where your youth stand before you even jump into it. Because a lot of times we may personalize how youth react or personalize how youth participation level is, and it had nothing to do with us. They came in at a number 1 anyway because of something else that happened in the past. So all of that is important. Does anybody else want to share before we move to the next one?
I'll say with the going off of what Elena said with the temp checks, also honoring the responses to the temp checks. As I remember, I would do temp checks and just do it as a way for me to know how people were feeling, but also that the young people could see how each other were feeling. But I would still do the activity with the expectations like that everybody would still have to fully participate, even though you might have been like a 1 or a low, you know, on your temp check. You still have to give 100%, but honoring, you know, how they feel present and at that moment also matters as well. So that was something that I had to learn.
So don't just check it off on the box to say, hey, I checked to see how I was feeling, but now I'm going to actually respect where you stand right now. I'm going to meet you where you are so that we can get to this goal together. We want to look at our youth as humans first and our babies first. Like, I understand you might not feel it today. I'm not feeling it either. So let's just get through this together. But I do have an understanding, and I see you for who you are and see you for how you feel in this moment. And I respect that. We are going to go into the rest of these slides are just takeaway activities so that, and we kind of touched on that just now, but this is another reference back to page 12, how that reflection question can come into play. This is something that you can ask youth as well. If you do have conflict within your group, what do you have an idea for how you're going to manage that conflict when it arises in the group? So now the youth are taking ownership of what are we going to do when conflict does arise? We have all these norms established, we have everything, but conflict is going to arise. How are we going to address it when it does come up? So that just refers back to that page 12 in the workbook. And another take it back activity that you all can have is the implementation guide. So if you go to page 11 in the workbook, this is the implementation guide. So you'll just choose. The first one says to choose one staff practice indicator that you would like to work on in your program. So whether you want to work on structure, modeling, or facilitating, and ask you different questions. How would you implement this practice indicator into your program setting and indicate a potential timeline and how you would measure your progress? And the third is, how would you partner with a colleague within your organization to implement this practice indicator? You can also include an activity presented in the application activity. So this just helps you to go away and process and say, how does this relate back to how I'm going to approach the classroom or how I'm going to approach the youth next time we're together? and we have them going through these different activities. So that's taking it back, closing, and reflection. So if you will just go ahead and click on that link that Antonio shared in the chat, that is our evaluation for today. So I would love all open and honest feedback, because again, we have one more session coming up. So if you want us to change anything, or if it's something that you like, we'll make sure we keep it in there. But I want to thank everyone today for joining me. And I hope to see you all again soon. Antonio, I'm gonna hand it back to you.
All righty, thank you again, Ms. Renee. That was awesome. Really, I mean, this was wholesome. You know, we got the theory, and then we also got to practice, and we also got to hear from each other and what that looks like at our sites, and kind of being able to feedback off of each other, but also maybe some takeaways from what other people are doing that may be a better fit for our centers. And also like the implementation, where there's like the structure, the modeling, and the facilitating. That facilitating piece is big whenever it comes to group work, because if you just get some young people together and just tell them to go meet a challenge or to do a task, we've all been there. It can be very interesting and go to some places that were not intentional. So thank you for this. This was great. This was awesome. I hope everybody got as much as I did from this. So again, we will meet next month. Same time, same place, first Tuesday of the month at 10 a.m. It'll be our last one. I think that one is promoting responsibility and leadership in young people. So that will be our next one. We also have a springing into summer next week on next Thursday. No, wait, that's like 2 weeks from now, April 20th. So April 20th, we have springing into summer. So that's when we'll be getting together to work on summer programming and getting some feedback. If you want to bring your ideas that you have, get some feedback from colleagues that are doing the same work, or we're working with young people, you can do that, or to kind of brainstorm about what you want to provide or whatnot. It's all about summer programming. So that's what we'll be doing on April 20th. Right, again, our end of year will be May 25th. So we'll be sending out more information on that. Please fill out the survey so that we know how we're doing and we can change things. But other than that, thank you all so much for joining us, and we hope to see you all next month. Have a great rest of your day.